Yeah, Bino. Bino. Brian O, Fox Sports Radio, as we get ready for week one of the NFL. Ball is back, my friend. What's cracking?
Chad doing? What is going on, man? Is this not a glorious time of the year or what?
Dude.
We start from Thursday. We're not done till Monday. Just ball all day, every day. Love it.
I thought about you, no joke, last weekend as I was sitting around watching nothing but game after game after game. I thought, man, Bino's got to be loving this. This time of year, it's like Christmas for guys like us who live for this type of ball. And I can't wait, man, because it's our first full weekend of college and NFL football. And really, it kicks off the next 6 months of greatness that we all get to experience.
I do feel, and I don't want to break up this festive party, right? I do feel a little bit bad for the college football week 2 slate, because think of it, Chad. You've got primetime NFL Thursday, primetime NFL Friday. Then you get the day of college football. Then Sunday, boom, week 1, full slate. And then the Monday night game is really intriguing too. Sunday night game is unbelievable. But week 2 of college football, it's like, what, Michigan, Oklahoma? That's the headliner? Everything else is like a bunch of FCS schools playing the big boys. Not a great slate for college. So that's kind of like the sandwiched in between of a great 5-day run here.
I went through all the games, and I had the same experience you did, because after week 1, where we got so many big games and great storylines, I was excited for week number 2, and then I took a look at the games and what's coming up, and I'm like, oh, my goodness, it's brutal. We get an early game where Iowa and Iowa State play for the Seahawks trophy, and that should be somewhat competitive. I like those type of interstate rivalries. Baylor and SMU is somewhat intriguing.
Yeah.
Oklahoma and Michigan is, really cool. But outside of that, that's it. There's nothing else on the slate where you're like, I have to watch that game. But the first week, it was like, I have to see Arch Manning, Texas and Ohio State. I want to watch Bama and Florida State. I've got to see Notre Dame and Miami. And then I'm going to watch Bill Belichick to see what that's all about. So I had a chance to watch multiple games in that first week of college football that were great. But this week, it's like, meh.
Yeah, it's weird, right? Because week 0 doesn't even really count. I call it the soft launch of the season. It's just there's hardly anything to look for. And then week 1, like you said, last week, those 3 top 10 matchups were awesome. Great stuff. And now we're back to like FCS. It's weird, right? It's like this roller coaster with the college football, like the quality of the initial games. But whatever, it's ball. Even though there aren't headlining games this weekend in college, just because there's so many games, there's going to be some wild stuff that happens. There's going to be some good games that break out. So it'll be fine. It'll work out fine.
All right, let's start with what we saw this past weekend, then we'll advance into week 1 of the NFL. I guess first off, Archie Manning and his debut against Ohio State. It's a very difficult place to open up and officially begin your college career. The part that concerned me the most really was just the mechanics. His footwork didn't seem right. He had some weird arm movements, and he was skipping a lot of balls to his receivers. What did you make of Arch Manning in game number 1 against Ohio State?
Yeah, he was bad. I don't think you can sugarcoat it. He just had a bad game. And some of the simple stuff, his first pass, he was like skipping a rock. It was like nowhere close to an open receiver. And then at the end of the game, it was, 3rd and 5, I think, on their final possession. Wide open receiver. Little crossing pattern. The ball's not even close to him. And it's like, that's like grade school type stuff. That's the most basic stuff right there. And he wasn't getting that right. So I think a lot of it you could attribute to Matt Patricia did a really good job as the Ohio State defensive coordinator, confusing him, making the pre-snap look different post-snap. And he did some really good things as the defensive play caller. But, man, Chad, there were just some layup throws, to your point, that he just missed. And so I would give it time. I know it's doom and gloom right now. And I think a lot of the criticism goes too far with Arch Manning, where it's like, what? Heisman favorite. But it's like, yeah, he was the number 1 recruit. It's not the dumbest thing in the world. It looks silly now, but at the time, it wasn't the craziest thing ever.
Yeah.
He's got a ton of talent. Even though he played badly, I wouldn't sell all my stock.
Yeah.
There's a reason he's the number 1 recruit and might be the number 1 overall pick. It's not like he's a hack quarterback all of a sudden. Just had a bad Saturday.
Yeah, there's no question about it. It's never a good sign when you're like midway through the game and the quarterback's already had more commercials with him in it than he has completions. It's like, that's not a good look.
That's not good. You never want that. It's we call it the old school Baker Mayfield syndrome is what that is right there. Yeah. What was he spokesman of at the time? The insurance stuff? Was it Progressive or something else with all those commercials?
Yeah, was it State Farm? I can't remember exactly what, but he was on TV constantly, and it just didn't go well initially. But I love quarterbacks, Baker, Geno Smith, Sam Darnold. I love guys who grind through, get a second opportunity, and make the most of it. I love those type of redemption quarterback stories because when you and I were younger, usually if you were a top pick at quarterback and you bombed out, you never got that second look or an opportunity.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty remarkable that those guys have rebounded the way that they have. I went back. Baker Mayfield's first contract with Tampa a couple of years ago, I think it was a 1-year deal for like $4 million. Think about it and think of where he's at right now. He's had back-to-back really strong statistical seasons, making a boatload more money. But we're talking a couple of seasons back, he was on a 1-year deal for $4 million. Like that's below minimum wage for NFL quarterbacks.
For sure.
You know, and he made the most of it, man. Landed on his feet now.
All right, Alabama got just hammered by Florida State. What an impressive job by Mike Norvell and Gus Malzahn, who's their offensive coordinator now. What I'm wondering with Kalen DeBoer, his numbers and where he's been previous prove that he's a great coach. I'm just wondering if maybe his personality, because he's a West Coast guy, you make that move south to work in the SEC at Alabama. You know, I'm just wondering if maybe he's not the right fit at a place like Bama compared to a West Coast location like Washington. What's your read on what you're seeing at Bama right now? Because the effort level that we saw at points in time during that game wasn't up to par for the way we're used to seeing Crimson Tide.
I hear you. I would think of it like this, where they say love is the universal language.
Yes.
There's something else that is. That's winning. Winning is the universal language. So you could be, you know, Yankee from up north and head down to Tuscaloosa. As long as you're winning ball games, they will love you and embrace you. But if you're not, that's going to be a problem. And that's what I see it being right now with Kalen DeBoer. Is maybe West Coast is more his vibe. Maybe he's, you know, feeling more comfortable in a West Coast spot. But I still think that he can be successful in other places. He's off to a really rough start in Bama. He's lost 4 games to unranked teams. He's lost 4 games to teams that he was a double-digit favorite in.
Yeah.
You just can't do that, man. It's not like they're losing at Georgia or at Texas or like right to the big boys. They're losing to Florida State off a 2-10 season. They're losing to Vanderbilt. Chad. Oklahoma was brutal last year. They lost to Oklahoma. You can't be losing those games when you're filling in. You're taking over for Nick Saban, right? They're used to the penthouse. And right now, losing to unranked, you know, double-digit underdogs. This is the outhouse right here. So it's a rough start for Kalen DeBoer. And I did an interview a little bit earlier, Chad. I was making the rounds here, and the host, Nate Brown, he was saying that he likened it a little bit to Brian Kelly's start at LSU. Mm-hmm. I thought that was a good comparison, right? Where it started off rocky, same kind of thing. He's manufacturing a fake Southern accent with my family.
Oh, so douchey.
And he's losing games. Finally, that's a big win against Clemson. You go on the road, you beat a top 5 team. You finally get something moving in your direction here. That's exactly what Kalen DeBoer has to do. He's got to win a bigger game and get these critics off his back and get the momentum going in the right direction.
Speaking of winning being the ultimate language in football, you know, you can date someone the age of your granddaughter and be a head coach, but you can't do that when you're losing and getting embarrassed by TCU. I'm just wondering if, like Bill Belichick, is he like becoming like that crazy uncle or grandfather that needs someone to step in to help him? Because his behavior and actions since he's taken over at North Carolina are a little bit strange to me. And I'm just wondering if he's going to have what it takes to bring in the talent required to have a chance to compete with the likes of Clemson and Florida State in the ACC.
Yeah, man, it's he's got a long way to go, right?
Oh.
That was a rough debut. And, hey, he might not get there. That was the big knock on him in the NFL was
drafting.
You know, Belichick, the talent evaluator, got in the way of Belichick, the great head coach, many times. So I don't know. Might be the same thing in college. It's possible. But he's got to have, like Bill Parcells said, you got to have the groceries. You know, if you want to cook the meal, you got to have the groceries. And he's got to have a lot better talent there to really make noise. I just think, Chad, I know, it's doom and gloom when it comes to Belichick, but it's North Carolina. Like, these people that are like, what's North Carolina doing? I just don't understand that. They're North Carolina. How is North Carolina going to say no to Bill Belichick? It's like if the Brazilian underwear model wants to go out with you, you don't say, I don't know if this is a good long-term fit. You say yes, and you figure it out later, right? Like, that's North Carolina. Of course, they had to say yes to Belichick. I don't understand these people that are like, why'd they do it in the first place? It's like, what were they doing outside of Belichick? Like, who did you want them to hire that was going to blow your doors off? There's nobody available. They absolutely should have hired him, but we'll see if he can get it on track.
All right, Bino, Fox Sports Radio here on the Rip City Drive. Week 1 of the NFL is going to kick off tomorrow with the Cowboys and the Eagles. I want to start with your thoughts on the move by Jerry Jones, letting Micah Parsons go to Green Bay in exchange for 2 first-round picks and Kenny Clark. What'd you make of the move?
I hated it. I think it's dumb. You pay your generational talents. You don't overthink it. They should have paid him a long time ago. But even if you're going to trade him, right, Chad? Like, let's walk down that road for a second. If you're going to trade him, then find a way to maximize the value. And they didn't do that. I think of it like Luka Doncic in a way where with Luka, same thing. If you're going to trade him, I think that's crazy. But if you're going to trade him, maximize the value of this guy. He's a generational talent. And they didn't do that. They were talking to the Lakers, under the cloak of night, right? Instead of opening it up to the league. You could have had a bidding war. You could have gotten much more for Luka Doncic than they got. And so I look at it similarly with Micah Parsons. You're not going to get the same haul. We understand it works differently in the NFL compared to the NBA. Draft picks are valued a lot more in the NFL, yada, yada. But if they opened it up in, say, March.
Yes.
Right, before you get draft picks before the draft.
Yeah.
And if you're opening it up league-wide, you can't sit here and tell me there's no chance, no how they get, like, considerably more than they got. They got Kenny Clark and 2 late first-round picks, most likely. They could have gotten way better than that. And they traded him to a team in their own conference. They could see the Packers in the playoffs for the next couple of years if they're lucky enough to get there, right? So just a mind-boggling trade by the Cowboys. If you're going to trade him, just be as smart about it as possible and maximize the value out of it. And they didn't come close to doing that.
Yeah, that was somewhat disturbing. Now, of the storylines in week number 1, like, what are you most geeked up on right now?
Man, I love the Sunday night game.
Oh,
when you get the
so
Bills
good.
and Ravens, that's a great matchup. I love that week 1. And just ball being back in general, I want to see – because, listen, it's fashionable to just clown the Cowboys with all due reason, right? But it's a divisional game, week 1. Can they keep it close against the Eagles? Can this be a fourth-quarter game? And I love the game in Brazil, right? We just start off right out of the gate, divisional battle. Chargers trying to create some year 2 Jim Harbaugh magic against the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are going to be a gigantic pain in the boudoir this year, man. Getting embarrassed the way they did in the Super Bowl, I don't buy any thought of, and it's kind of popular, there's a blueprint. It's like the Eagles are one of the most talented rosters at the time, the most talented roster in the NFL. It doesn't mean the rest of the AFC West has all of a sudden figured out the Chiefs because the Eagles punked them in the first half. I don't believe that at all.
Yeah, it's going to be great. I'm looking forward to seeing these young quarterbacks. One, the second-year guys like Caleb Williams. I want to see if Drake May can make a move in that second year with Mike Vrabel as head coach. What's Bo Nix going to do at Denver working with Sean Payton? But also, the young guys like Cam Ward making his first start at Denver. I can't wait to see these young quarterbacks to see what the progression is going to be like.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what Cam Ward does. He doesn't have a whole lot around him. Calvin Ridley is a good receiver, but beyond that, it's like, there's not a ton. Not a ton surrounding him talent-wise. So it could be a rough one. I'll tell you what, man. I'm so interested in seeing what the Vikings do and how J.J. McCarthy performs. Because look at the Titans and the Vikings, like roster to roster. We all know the Vikings roster is way better. They have a legitimate chance to make real noise come playoff time. But J.J. McCarthy, you couldn't tell me anything right now, Chad, that I really wouldn't buy. If you said, oh, you know what, he's going to have a great first year as the starting quarterback. There's so much talent. Kevin O'Connell, brilliant play caller. He's going to be really, really good. Sam Darnold threw 35 touchdown passes. He's going to be fine. I'd be like, it makes sense. And if you said, look, man, he wasn't this prolific passer in college. They ran the ball like crazy there. He's surrounded by a lot of talent, but he's a first-year starter. Sam Darnold had a ton of experience compared to J.J. McCarthy. He's going to struggle, and they're going to lose more games than most people believe. That's reasonable to me, too. So the range of what's going to happen with McCarthy and the Vikings, I am so intrigued by that.
Yeah, no doubt. That's going to be so much fun to watch. I wanted to ask you a gambling no question. I'm looking at the lines, and I'm trying to figure out why is the 49ers favored by 2.5 at Seattle? Can you explain that one to me? Because I look at that and I'm like, dude, Seattle's the team to play there, but it looks too good to be true. What's up with that?
Yeah, those weird lines, right, where it just screams sucker bet. And I'm not sure which side is the sucker bet, I like the Seahawks defense playing at home. You look at the Niners, their wide receivers are so banged up. They just released the guy and picked up MVS. They picked up the receiver the Seahawks let go, right? Marquez Valdez-Scantling was released by the Seahawks this offseason. The Niners just picked him up. He's going to be one of their main guys in week one. So I don't love that if I'm a Niners fan. We got our wide receivers are the walking wounded here. We're going up against a good defense. I like the Seahawks plus the points. And I don't know, man, when you get that plus 2.5 on the road, it's like, ugh. I don't love that right there, They're just they're like, it's not even a field goal, right? Niners can win by a field goal, right? As soon as the line acts like it's trying to do me a favor, I'm like, oof, I'm a little wary of that.
Man, Buffalo minus 1.5 at home would seem like a pretty good little tasty wager right there.
It does seem pretty tasty. You do think if you buy the revenge spot, the Ravens losing in that same stadium in ultra painful fashion with Mark Andrews dropping that 2-point conversion. And I mean, if you're talking about motivation, right, there's way more motivation for the Ravens week one than Buffalo. It doesn't mean they're going to win. I love that matchup. I'll tell you what, man, like Buffalo better find a way to slow down Derrick Henry because he's had some masterpiece games against Buffalo. And they got a couple of guys. Their defensive line depth is hurt. Buffalo has 2 guys that are out for the first 6 weeks due to suspension. So, maybe the Ravens will be able to play smash mouth and take advantage of that a little bit.
I don't know if you saw this. You probably did because you're all over it. You got to hate Scott Hansen confirming that Red Zone's going to feature commercials. What the flip is going on, man? This is not good, no?
Man.
It's terrible.
I only like it if Scott Hansen is voicing all the commercials in Red Zone fashion, right? It's the vibe of, if you want a sub, here's Subway. They got the BLT, they got the BMT, right? Like that would be kind of fun and creative. But yeah, commercials on Red Zone.
You know what really irritates me about that is like if I'm paying a subscription, then the idea of getting a commercial rammed down my throat it makes my skin crawl, Bino. Like I'm not down with that, man.
Yeah, like think of the other streaming platforms like Netflix, for instance, right? If you want the package that eliminates all the commercials, well, that's going to cost you a little bit more. It would suck if they still, after you paid that fee, found a way to shoehorn more ads there. You're like, I'm paying to not have these.
Yeah, I don't want your ads for crying out loud. Oh, by the way, speaking of Netflix, have you watched the Cowboys doc yet?
I've seen a little bit of it, and it's really, really good. Really good. How many parts is it? 8?
I want to say it was 7 or 8. I watched the entire thing, but you got to watch it. It's so wild because I had forgotten some of the details, because it's, 30 years ago. But Jerry Jones putting all of his money, being up to his eyeballs in debt into one well, and then striking it rich and getting $100 million overnight is incredible. And he accomplished his dream of being able to go out and buy an NFL team. Like that's so awesome. And I love it because I understand now why he pursues what he pursues, because that experience he had at Arkansas with Jimmy Johnson, that's where he met Barry Switzer. They won the national title, and he's been spending the rest of his life trying to recapture that feeling from that team. It had that big of an impact on him.
Man, I'll tell you what, that first episode that you're talking about, I love that because he was in debt. He was drilling for oil and striking out, and he's like, I'm going to give it another go. let's give it a shot here. And he struck it rich. He got about $50 million, I think, on one drilling. And the way he's describing it, I don't know anything about oil drilling. You know, who does? But he's like, it starts like speaking to you. You know, he's like, and it starts crying. It starts, wheezing. And you're like, what? Wow. You're just so sucked in. He does a great job of painting a picture there. That first episode's really good.
Yeah. I'm also happy that Jimmy Johnson and Jerry Jones were able to mend their relationship over time. He's in the Ring of Fame with the Cowboys now, and they're able to come together because those guys accomplished a lot of great things together, and it would be a shame if they would spend the rest of their lives apart because, that's great NFL history right there with Jerry Jones and Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah, and it's the same thing. It's the news today where it's like Kraft and Belichick. They had so much success together. It would suck if they're just, on opposite ends, totally divided relationship. But the news of Belichick's going to have a statue out, like Tom Brady outside of Foxborough when he's done coaching. I don't understand the when he's done coaching thing. I think they can make that happen while he's coaching. But whatever. It's a step in the right direction because they had so much success together. I understand. It's like, listen, it's like a married couple. You're together for so long, maybe kind of wear on each other. But you can't forget about all those good times. And, Jerry Jones, Jimmy Johnson, Kraft, Belichick, that's NFL royalty right there, So it's good that they're taking some steps in the right direction.
All right, Brian, no Fox Sports Radio. Well, my brother, so does this weekend kick off the first week of your NFL pregame show on Fox? Tell me about it.
Yeah. So we'll do countdown. It'll be countdown to kickoff. We put 2 kickoff now that ball is back, So
Yes.
Countdown to kickoff, it'll be your time. Saturdays will be 6 to 9, leading up to that 9 a.m. kickoff time. And then Sundays it'll be 7 to 10, right, for that early window of NFL games.
Oh, dude.
Right up to kickoff. Yeah.
I can't go into the lab and create a better person for that show than you. It's like you were tailor-made for that program on Saturday and Sunday better than anybody. I love it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. They were like, who can we get that has some radio experience and routinely bets, the over on first quarter NFL lines? So who do we have that's like a real degenerate that could lead the charge here? And, I think my name popped up glowingly when it comes to degenerate bets,
I was talking to a guy down at Spirit Mountain who he was giving me his whole breakdown on why he does first half lines and his parlays and all this stuff. Like he's got a whole formula and a system for it, but he's all about the first half lines. He loves it.
He's all more first half than full game. Sometimes that's a better way to go. I was kicking myself. It was one of my picks. I can't bet this, but I thought Notre Dame and Miami, the under was a pretty good play.
Yeah.
It was 50.5. Of course, it ended on 51, right? But I can't bet it because I don't want to root for Notre Dame not to score.
Yes.
So the only time I bet Notre Dame is for them to cover the spread.
How great was that game? That game was
a great
awesome.
Game.
Gosh, it was
a great
good.
Game. Yeah.
And probably the catch of the year in that game as well.
How does the safety not karate chop that away from? Come on,
idea.
man. I understand that he's thinking interception, but worst case scenario, you knock that ball down. There's not enough time. Unless that's a pick six, that's probably the only way they're going to score.
I came out of that game, even though Notre Dame lost, I'm like, okay, they're one of the best teams in the country. I thought the young quarterback played well as the game went along. And now the key for Notre Dame is just continue to refine the defensive and offensive lines. And if they get those guys playing traditional Notre Dame type football, the Irish are going to be fine. No question.
Yeah. And C.J. Carr played pretty well. He had the one interception. They were so conservative in the first half, but he showed legitimate signs in the second half. I was just kicking myself for not picking the first half under. I went full game under. I should have been like your friend right there.
I know.
Hardly any points in the first half.
You blew it, man. You blew an opportunity, no?
I knew they were going to be conservative in the first half. It makes all the sense in the world looking back now. Goodness.
Well, I'll be in touch soon, man. Have fun with the shows this weekend and enjoy the ball, brother.
All right, Chad Doing. Always great catching up with you, buddy. You enjoy the ball, too.